Hello, everybody. It's me, Benny, TCB, the Colonel Violin here. I'm, I'm actually here to do a commentary of sorts. I don't know if this technically applies to the political commentary for the month. It can, because it's technically political, but at the same time, I don't know if it does. It doesn't exactly fit the normal focuses, which is usually locally here to the U.S., but there you go. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I did want to specifically make note of this because I have viewed a handful of videos that have talked about, well, I say handful, I think two total, and then I read the one or two articles relating to it. But relating to that of the French military, retired French military members' letter to Emmanuel Macron, which of course is the president of Francois, French, France, yes, and disgusting language, honestly repulsive. Anyway, but it's to him, to Macron, and France, and yeah. So it's weird how people are interpreting it because, admittedly, and I probably should put this as not that preface, preface, whatever, preface, that Google Translate is what I use to translate this, and obviously our overlord Google, which is one tier below that of our overlord Microsoft, which is one tier below that of our overlord Bill Gates, they our overlord Google, third tier overlord, they don't have the most obviously accurate translations in the world, as we all know. But considering how I translate this, it does flow perfectly. It does make perfect sense the entire way through. Translate to English via Google Translate. So I'm going to say that this is probably at least 95 to 98% accurate. It could even be 100% accurate. I don't entirely know. The videos were kind of confusing to me because some of them were suggesting that it was a hearkening, a beckoning, a harboring of war, basically, civil revolutionary war between basically the military and the disgruntled population versus obviously the government to oust Macron and the rest of the bourgeois, the bigois, the pigs. Yes, from power, of course. Inevitably, I mean, it's France. This happens every 100 to 150 years in France. They go through another major revolution because the bourgeois, the people in power, you know, do what people in power things do. They auto corrupt and they start serving themselves, and of course, then people in France don't take shit lying down. They really, physically, in action and reaction, put out exactly how they really feel about it. And they're like the only people in world history that properly do that since nations as a concept have came into existence relentlessly. And then yeah, the other half is saying that it's them being extremely angry. In my terms, I would say Islamophobic is what the commonality, the common societal term would be. Basically, in other words, they're taking a crap all over, Emmanuel Macron and his administration there in France for allowing so many Muslim immigrants, Islamic immigrants, to come into France as refugees, and thus suggesting the typical, well, anti-Islamic rhetoric of they're terrorists, they're evil, they're raping, they're doing all this shit, whatever. Which is, I'm sure, 90% of that's bullshit. Obviously, you always have a bunch of shitty people in any group of people. It's inevitable. So you're going to have a few that probably are doing that kind of bullshit. But at the same time, yeah, I have my suspicions that that's overblown. So here's the letter in full translation to English. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the government, ladies and gentlemen, the times are serious. France is in peril. Several mortal dangers threaten her. We who, even in retirement, remain soldiers of France, cannot, in the current circumstances, remain indifferent to the fate of our beautiful country. Our tricolored flags are not just a piece of cloth. They symbolize the tradition, through the ages, of those who, whatever their skin color or faith, served France and gave their lives for it. On these flags, we find in golden letters the words honor and fatherland. But our honor today lies in the denunciation of the disintegration which strikes our homeland. Discrimination which, through a certain anti-racism, is displayed with a single goal: to create on our soil a malaise, even hatred, between the communities. Today, some speak of racialism, indigenism, and decolonial theories, but through these terms, it is the racial war that these hateful and fanatic partisans want. They despise our country, its traditions, its culture, and want to see it dissolved by taking away its past and its history. Thus, they attack, through statues, ancient military and civilian glories by analyzing words that are centuries old. Discrimination which, with Islamism and the suburban hordes, leads to the detachment of multiple plots of the nation to transform them into territories subject to dogmas contrary to our Constitution. But every Frenchman, whatever his belief or non-belief, is everywhere at home in France. There cannot and must not exist in any city, any district, where the laws of republic do not apply. Discrimination because hatred takes precedence over brotherhood during demonstrations, where the power uses the police as an auxiliary agent and a scapegoat in the face of French people in yellow vests expressing their despair. This while infiltrated and hooded individuals ransack businesses and threaten these same police forces. Yet the latter only apply the directives, sometimes contradictory, given by you, the rulers. Perils are mounting, violence is increasing day by day. Who would have predicted 10 years ago that a professor would one day be beheaded and when he left the college? However, we, servants of the nation, who have always been ready to put our skin at the end of our engagement, as our military state demanded, cannot be passive spectators in the face of such actions. Those who run our country must therefore find the courage to eradicate these dangers. To do this, it is often sufficient to apply existing laws without weakness. Do not forget that, like us, a large majority of our fellow citizens are overwhelmed by your dabbling and guilty silences. As Cardinal Mercier, primate of which I find that primate is actually the correct term, but you would think it would be, because you're thinking monkey, at least in English, but primate, in other words, premier. Premier of Belgium said, "When prudence is everywhere, courage is nowhere. So, ladies and gentlemen, enough procrastination. The hour is serious. The work is colossal. Do not waste time and know that we are ready to support policies which will take into consideration the safeguard of the nation." On the other hand, if nothing is done, laxity will continue to spread inexorably in society, ultimately causing an explosion and the intervention of our active comrades in a perilous mission of protecting our civilizational values and safeguarding our compatriots on the national territory. As we can see, it is no longer time to procrastinate, otherwise, tomorrow the Civil War will put an end to this growing chaos and the deaths for which you will bear the responsibility, which will number in the thousands. It's to me, if you extrapolate, right, and you cherry pick, you pick out one specific or a couple of specific things, like people have always done throughout history with books and letters and things like this, like they do with the Bible, right? They cherry pick the things, the parts that they want to focus on, that they get hung up on, and then they use that and they blow it out of proportion and say this is what it's about and this is what they meant and da 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 da. When if you take this entire thing as it is here, then you can tell immediately what people were cherry picking. Say, threatening civil war, like the last bit there, right? And then also the whole supposed Islamophobic nature of it, basically being targeting Islamic refugees. You can see where they specifically got hung up on one specific piece of this massive letter and just cherry picked it out, and then just started just ripping it to pieces basically and blowing it out of proportion. They're like, this is the focus. No, that's one little fucking sentence, or even a part of a sentence. If you take the entire thing, freaking people with motorcycle mufflers, if you take the entire thing as it is, it's not specifically targeting anybody in particular other than Emanuel Macron and his administration and how they've handled everything. It's not specifically against, say, Islamics or refugees. It's not specifically something racial or gender specific, or any of the things that people love, especially SJWs, love to harp on and be like, see, clearly they're injured pejorative here. No, like, this entire thing is, in fact, actually, the way they build up and the way they're talking, you can tell they're talking like everybody is French. Everybody in our nation is our fellow countrymen. They're the people that they're talking about being fed up with the regime. They're upset. They're not saying anything too specific. They're pointing out various little issues and problems, like they say Islamism, right, and the suburban holds. And then they also, before that, were talking about the various discrimination about, like, basically, my interpretation would be they're talking about how the people, basically SJWs, who are talking about race, basically critical race theory, which is probably the racialism, indigenism, which is the whole idea of you took this land from indigenous people, therefore you need to get the fuck out and give their land back. Well, then where the fuck do you go? Like, that doesn't work. That's an extremism. You have the decolonial theories, which is everything's focused on colonialism, and so everything's like, basically, oh, you gotta be apologist because you happen to have light pigmented skin. You're white, in other words. And that makes you evil and responsible for all these atrocities that you literally had nothing to do with because they happened hundreds of years ago. Or whatever else. It's like, all this other, like, tons of this shit, right? That's my interpretation of what it is. Basically, in other words, they're talking about the SJWs because they say, through those specific things, those topics, those terms, in reality, it only is really a racial war and that they really want because they're really hateful people. And technically, that's true. You're hating on people based on their skin color, so you're actually yourself racist. You're hating on people via their gender, which is itself sexist. You're hating on all this other shit because, oh, you're desperately clinging to this past that hasn't happened for a long, long time. And to me, that's what they're indicating, they're saying there specifically. Yes, that does follow with suddenly discrimination with Islamism and the suburban hordes leads to the detachment of multiple plots of the nation to transform them into territories subject to dogmas contrary to our Constitution. Which, likely it is, their Constitution is based, probably Catholic. Based. So technically that could be saying, okay, so they're specifically referring to Islamists. The thing is that I have always known of what Islamism and Islamist is basically what other people that are more severe here in the United States would call jihadist. Basically, in other words, they're extremist Muslims. They're people who would probably identify with Boko Haram, with Hamas, with ISIS, with Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda, whatever. They're with the Taliban, like, that's Islamists. They're not, in other words, saying all Islamic people. They're saying specifically these extremists is Islamic people, the ones that are hyper severe, basically. Because that's what I've always understood and known Islamism and Islamist to mean and to be defined as and used as. So, like, I've always known that. And so maybe it changed at some point. I don't know. I didn't just notice I got killed. Yeah, maybe that changed at some point. I I don't know. People are constantly redefining or rechanging everything or adding definitions to things that already have a fucking long list of definitions, and they wonder why everybody gets mad at each other and everybody gets upset and everybody assumes somebody means something that they don't, because English is fucking dumb as shit and doesn't make any fucking sense. But they call that evolution of language, and they're like, if you don't like that, then obviously you're the problem. Well, no, you're the fucking problem. Different topic, different day, as usual. I think I've mentioned that kind of rant type of thing before. I can't stand those evolution of language people. They drive me literally into anger. It is because it's so illogical, their argument, but whatever. Anyway, different story. So yeah, the point is, that's how I know that. So to me, and with everything there, you read this entire thing, everything that it says that I've read in it, right? Everything that the letter says, to me, blatantly proves that that is in fact what they mean by Islamists in hordes and that. They're talking about the extremist Muslims that have shown up as refugees, not general Islamic people. So, and in fact, they're talking about how, no matter their color of their skin, no matter their faith, in other words, no matter if they're Islamic, they're Hindu, they're Jainist, they're animist, they're totemist, they're Taoist, it doesn't matter, or Catholic, it doesn't freaking matter, literally they even talk about that. So I wouldn't even say it's a contradiction. I think it's just that people need to, I guess, just take some deep breaths, calm themselves down, instead of reacting actually and getting caught on stuff, understand the full context of everything that's said in this letter, that in all likelihood, and of course I'm not them, just like none of us are, so only they can say 100% for sure what exactly they were intending and meant by this letter and each thing they said in it. I'm as confident as it can be that they intended it and meant specifically the extremist Muslims that have showed up as refugees in France. Not all. And that's why they had the whole thing in the beginning talking about of all faiths, of all skin colors, no matter their skin color, no matter their faith, because it doesn't matter at that point. So that's one of the major reasons why I wanted to read this letter and bring it up and talk about it, because there's a lot of news organizations, whether independent media or not, there's a lot of just general people that read it and then speculated about it, or obviously this means that they're threatening to cause civil war. They're saying they're gonna start a civil war. There's other ones that are saying, of course, that it's specifically denouncing Muslim refugees entirely, and there's again, in my words, I would say, therefore, it is Islamophobic. It's clearly neither of those, and that's exactly why I wanted to read this, because the fact that it's blatantly none of those. It's neither of those. Yes, you could cherry pick it, and then you'd absolutely be right if you just only focus that and happen to extrapolate that out of it. Then yeah, you can make it into anything you want at that point. Any district where laws of the Republic do not apply. You could literally cherry pick, take that, extrapolate that out, and then say they want a Hunger Games system to be implemented because they're talking about districts in terms of Hunger Games mentality. You could easily do that. You could say it's an extremist nationalist thing by simply taking the word dogma out and then talking about every Frenchman and the belief in all this other stuff, and then home in France. That itself technically could be used against it and say, okay, so I extrapolate that, now I'm going to make it into my own thing where it's all about extreme nationalism. But that wouldn't be honest either. So again, this is why I wanted to read it and show it, because it's not really that at all. In fact, it's not extreme at all in any way. It's not reactive at all. It's very, very, I think, well written and well worded. It's very straightforward to the point. It's not aggressive. It's not reactionary. It's none of that. It's actually very calm, cool, collected, methodical, well thought out. They wrote it in such a way that got their points across. And that's it. That's all they were trying to do, is get their points across. Let them know exactly where they're at, And so that's why I would say it's more like a warning / a very, very light featherweight ultimatum to Emanuel Macron. Basically, we're making you well aware of your position right now with us and, in fact, a lot of your people, as in the citizenry, the citizens of this nation. And that, to me, blatantly, that's what this is. And they're clearly, again, showing that they're very technically by definition inclusive, right? They're including everybody who is, no matter their gender, no matter their faith, no matter their pigment level of their skin, you know, they're all French, right? They're all our countrymen. They're all our brothers and sisters, you know, whatever, that we're responsible for caring for. That you, Emmanuel Macron, are responsible for giving a fuck about and supposed to be caring for, supposedly, which people in power never care for anybody but themselves, technically. And technically the people who are controlling them, because they are really just a mere puppet to the people who are really orchestrating the entire world's control, but different story. So yeah, that's why I want to read it. Like, I think blatantly that's what it is. I mean, I wouldn't be at all unhappy with you guys letting me know your interpretation of this down below. I also am going to directly link you to the article, or not the article so much as the letter itself. I'll link you directly to it in the description below, so you guys can translate it for yourself, or if you can read French, then you can read it outright. You guys can let me know where something might have been mistranslated or something. I mean, at the very, very beginning, it feels like it's mistranslated something, because it says, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the government, ladies and gentlemen. Although it seems redundant, because this specifies, the first one specifies of the government, and the other one is just in general. I assume the in general one could also be, in other words, in general. So anybody who reads it that's a citizen, or that's anywhere else of the world. Especially considering the following context is the times are serious, France is in peril. Not saying we are in peril, our nation's in peril, they're saying France is in peril. In other words, they knew that other people would end up reading it. So technically, contextually, that makes sense at that point, but it still also feels kind of redundant, being, I guess, the way the English language works. But it is the first part of it is specified, so it could work. But yeah, just let me know, and let me know what you think of it and all that stuff. And again, I'll link it down below, and you can analyze it yourself. So that's my political commentary for the day. Or for the day, I should say, for the month. Maybe. I don't know. I might record another one, because I don't know if this is applicable, especially to, say, Al and other people who actually now are going to be coming and enjoy watching and listening to these things. Like, I don't know if you would consider this applicable to being political commentary, even though it is literally political, and it is commentary, so it technically kind of fits. Usually I'm more general, and I'm usually focused more at home. So that's why I'm saying I'm kind of on the fence about if it really applies. I don't know. You guys are going to have to let me know. But at least this will start and stand as the monthly commentary for May for at least the foreseeable future, until I get that input from you guys. But you're going to have to give me the input. I don't know if I'm just going to go with what Al says, because I know that these are, at least on this channel, these are consistently, for some reason, my best viewed videos. Always have been. So the ones that get by far the most views, likes, dislikes, interaction in that regard. But it still lacks comments other than from Al. So I would love to be able to have you guys literally give me that input, so that way I can actually determine if this counts to you guys or not. In this case, I will actually give you a little bit of leash. And normally I don't give you any leash. I'm in control. And technically I still should be in control, because it is my channel, it is my content. But in this case, I actually do want to give you some leash and give you the choice to be able to technically dictate to me if this counts to you or not. Anyway, I digress. Check out my trips, reports, and outdoors channel if you haven't. It's doing pretty well. I enjoy it myself, and yeah. Oh yeah, and now that I think about it, recording this today and putting this up today, ironically, is going to equate to, since it's a Sunday, at 4:45 p.m. Pacific time, the next video for the week. Because I post a video a week there. The video for the Trippin' Outdoors channel today is going to go live. What a coinky dink! Sunday to Sunday. How about that? Anyway, thank you so much for joining me and listening and watching. I appreciate it. Again, link to this letter is going to be in the description below. Check it out, check it out. And, yeah. Yeah. If you didn't watch the update video, by the way, I released, well, last Sunday here on this channel, then I do recommend you do for full context and for full update stuff. That way you guys can fully be engaged and up to date with everything that you can expect on this channel. But with this channel specifically, I'm going to just tell you right now, even though it kind of gives away what you would expect for this channel there. For the foreseeable future, this channel is basically going to be dedicated to this monthly commentary. Maybe some other forms of commentary, but predominantly this monthly commentary. Yeah. I know it's supposed to be a gaming channel. I mean, it's literally youtube.com/thecriminalviolentgames. But I mean, almost 6.5 years down the line, I mean, inevitably, things are gonna shift and change, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's also supposed to be a variety, technically, but it was always predominantly focused on games. I still have an episode that I've had forever to edit and output of Journey to the Savage Planet, running out at the speed of light. I still haven't edited it, and it's been like, what, 2 months since the last episode, and technically that was the same recording session, so I don't know if I'm gonna ever release that. I don't know. I probably should. I probably will. So, see you later. Okay. Bye-bye. Click the button.